Willkommen, bienvenue, and welcome back to the modding of Isaac with Lyte. Sorry about taking a week off. A lot of things came up, but we're back, and this time we're going to cover a mod callback that we did not cover previously. It's one of the new ones. It's the MC Get Card callback, such that we can get rid of our old bait and switch code for adding runes and cards that we made ourselves, because it was not perfect by any stretch. Now we've got something official that can get the job done for us. So let's get into the game and take a look at what we can make it do. Because there's the normal use, and then there's some side uses that you might be interested in. So for one, let's give deck of cards, C85. And then we'll give rune bags, C3 something, 350. Let's just type it in. Rune bag, 389. And then give magic mushroom. Because we're going to be walking places and we want things to die quickly, but not instantaneously. So here we are in a nice dark room. We've got ourselves a deck of cards. And if we use our deck of cards, we get a 2 of diamonds. And what's that? Another 2 of diamonds. So one of the things that you can do with the get card callback is, well, you can duplicate the card that it's giving you. Now, it doesn't have to be all the time. It could be just when you have an item or when you use an item, but it lets you do that sort of thing. You can make it give you a chance of duplicating a card that's spawned. But it doesn't tell you where it is, so you have to give it someplace on your own. Another interesting point is that when you summon a card directly, it doesn't call the function in a way that would cause it to create infinite cards, which is good. So let's do a little walking, try to get ourselves a rune. This shouldn't take long because, well, magic mush, but if you feel like skipping ahead, feel free, because I certainly can't stop you. And you'll notice I take a lot of damage because I am not naturally a keyboard player for Isaac. I usually use the controller, but it's really good for these videos using the keyboard. So we picked up our year rune that we implemented before because it dropped from the rune bag. You'll notice it only gave us 1 though, because I have it set that it will only duplicate the card when you have a chance of getting a playing card. So if you could only get a tarot card, it won't do it. If you can get a rune, it also won't do it. So you can get these sorts of interesting interactions going in the callback if you want. So let's head over to the code, see how it actually works. So here we are. This part is pretty much the entirety of the get card callback. We have a couple of constants that we set up top, which we'll check out when we need to. So first things first, when you try to add the callback, you check your enumeration, make sure you get MC Get Card. That's the type of callback we're adding. But which function is the callback? Mod.onCard, which we define right here. A lot of people still get confused about callbacks and functions, and just remember, the callback is the function that gets called back. This is when it gets called, and this is what gets called. You can't just make this something that doesn't exist. Make sure it exists. It needs to be a function. So here we are with our onCard function. It takes 5 additional parameters. Woo! RNG gives you an RNG object such that you can seed the randomness of your card generation. It's gorgeous. It's beautiful. It helps you to act like the game acts. Then we have current card. For this one, I added a little prefix such that you know the type of the thing that you're being given. RNG is very clearly RNG. I is an integer. It's a number, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, which tells you which card it's trying to spawn. Because it's trying to spawn something, and it wants you to know what it is, just in case you're like, I don't ever want to see an ace of spades again. You can make it such that you never see any of the ace cards anymore. It'll turn it into a 2 of that suit. Or you can turn every ace into a joker. That's up to you. But iCurrentCard right here tells you which card it is. Be playing. That's a Boolean. It's a true or false saying, can it spawn a playing card? So this is not in regards to which card it's trying to make, but what is actively creating the card. So deck of cards can create playing cards, so this Boolean would be true. But Rune Bag cannot, so this would be false. Then we move on to B runes. Can it generate runes, or can it not? So a chest can generate a rune. Rune Bag can generate a rune, deck of cards cannot. So they'll be out front, true or false, so depending on what's spawning it, you'll get a different result. And then B only runes is for things like Rune Bag that can only spawn runes. This will not be true for chests. So using these three Boolean values, you can cover the majority of cases. There's one case that you cannot account for. And that's something that can only spawn playing cards. So if you think about what these let you say, there's nothing about whether or not you can spawn a tarot card except only runes. So only runes says no tarot cards. But you can't say playing cards but no tarot cards, because you can say playing cards yes, no. So if you say playing cards yes, there's still no tarot cards no for that. There are no items that currently do just playing cards. But that means if they implement a function that lets us spawn a random card of a certain type, we can't spawn just playing cards that interact properly with this function. It's a shame, but we can do pretty much everything else. This first line here is just for my debugging purposes, making sure these three things worked the way that I think they work. So whenever it tries to spawn a card, it tells you could it have spawned a playing card, or runes, or can it only spawn runes? Then I have a little if statement for determining what I want to do. If we can spawn a rune, so Boolean runes is true, then we determine which of my runes or their runes should we do. So we roll our RNG and get a random number between 0 and 1. We set our current index to 1. That's for our table of custom runes. And then we have a little while loop. While the index is less than or equal to the number of rune chances. So this rune chance table is all the way at the top. Right here. Local rune chance, 0.5, 0.25. So Year has a 50% chance of coming up. Hoggle has a 25% chance of coming up. And all other runes combined have a 25% chance. So these are just for demonstration purposes. You don't want to set them this high because then your runes are going to come up all the time. So keep these relatively small. You want them to sum to less than 1 because the remaining is for all other runes combined. And then we've got a little table for our custom runes themselves, and it just lines up index to index. They're in parallel. Ear, 0.5, Hoggle, 0.25. So, if our index is within the range, good, and the roll is greater than the chance of that happening, so we rolled over a 0.5, then we take our roll and subtract that 0.5 from it. So say we rolled a 0.6. We roll 0.6. It checks for ear. Well, 0.5 is less than 0.6, so we come in here. 0.6 minus 0.5 is 0.1, and we increase the index from 1 to 2. It's still within range. Our roll, however, is no longer greater than the rune chance, because 0.1 is less than 0.25. So we skip out of this and come down here. Now the index is within range, and so we return custom runes index 2, which was Hoggle. This return tells it which card you want. By returning custom rune ID for Hoggle, it says make it a Hoggle rune. If you return nothing, it returns nil, it will maintain the card it wanted to summon. You could also return iCurrent card. So you could return this value right here. Either one is fine. I know that I cannot return anything else, so I can just let it get to the end of the function. It'll summon the rune or card that it wanted to. So that's how we get our custom runes into the game. So let's add that. Custom rune choice. So if you have any questions on how this weighted randomness part works, feel free to leave a comment or head over to the Discord and get some more info over there. Link is down in the doobly-doo. So what happens if it's not able to be a rune? Then we come over here, else if be playing. So it can't be a rune, but it can be a playing card. Then we get the player, and then we spawn a pickup of type tarot card of iCurrent card. So that's the card we're trying to get right now. Summon it at the player's position, not moving by the player. It really doesn't matter if this is player or nil, really. But here we are. This is what caused it to duplicate the card when we used our deck of cards. And thankfully, that doesn't cause that to run through this again and again and again and again and again forever. It's one of those things you always want to test with the stuff you make, is to make sure it has no chance of getting stuck in an infinite loop. Infinite loops are real bad. Real bad. They suck up all your resources, all your time, and they're just no good. Make sure they don't have any chance of happening. Not that they shouldn't happen, that they can't. Now, I haven't done enough rigorous testing to know that this can't get into a loop. But from my cursory examination, it won't get there easily. So I'm going to keep looking at these, looking for ways of getting into unfortunate situations. But for now, this is how you get your things into the game and how to modify what the game already wants to do. Because if you come in here and you're like, I want to get rid of the ace cards, instead of using if be runes or if be playing, you do if iCurrent card equals, and then the ID number for any one of the ace cards. If you wanted to make it hard and get rid of the Joker or the Hierophant or any of those, you can use iCurrent card in an if statement to go, if iCurrent card equals whatever, then either return something deterministic or return something random. All of the rest of my code in here is from the rune episode. I got rid of, I commented out my old bait and switch code. Thank goodness, because this was not great. When you held a rune and used deck of cards, it could change the rune that fell on the ground. That was just no good. And if you're missing the giant book animation, it was in that episode as well. These two are the only configuration parameters. You list your runes, and then you list the probabilities of them occurring. The leftover probability is all other runes. And that's if you want to use this particular way of doing it. There are other ways, there are always other ways, but this seems extensible. This seems like you could have as many runes as you want and still be able to do it this way. You just need to make sure that you set them to have good probabilities. And you still need to set their card back properly. So you still need on update, Yeah, this probably shouldn't be run for the player anymore. So you still need to go and check for the runes on the ground, and then set their card back properly. If you don't set their card back, they're gonna look like playing cards. But I believe that's it for this episode. It's a relatively short one. You're welcome. And I will see you in the next episode of the Modding of Isaac with Lyte.